Hello all. In this video we are going to take a look at the drawing functions that OpenCV provides. It's a very simple, very limited set of drawing commands. It's not really intended to do fantastic drawings. It's intended as tools that allow us to annotate images when we are finding useful and interesting information in them. But we can use them for fun as well, and we will. And so I want you to get a sense of how these different functions work. There's some commonalities across the functions, and then you'll just have a chance to practice with them on your own. I'm going to share my desktop, but we're mostly going to be focusing on writing code. So I'm not really going to look at my notes so much. I do encourage you to pull up the reading when you're working on these, or pull up some reference or other so that you have information about all of these functions. All right, so this is the code that we started earlier. I have some more key ideas. I'm not going to write them all down at the top, but it's basically I want to show you how to draw rectangles, how to draw circles, maybe how to draw ellipses, how to put text on the screen. And I will be going back and forth between the readings a little bit, just because sometimes it's helpful to me to remind myself of all of the arguments and exactly how they all work. Okay, so we have the city image, we have the blank image. I'm going to draw on both of those. But suppose that I want to draw a square that covers the main building in the city image. How would I go about doing that? Well, if I were clever, I'd spend a little time figuring out what the dimensions are. But I'm going to show you how I would actually do it. I would just draw a rectangle on the image and then start from there to figure out move it to where I want it to be. So I have the city image. I'm going to say cv2.rectangle. That's the function that lets us draw a rectangle. And while I've typed this, you can see that PyCharm usually can actually give us some hints about what should be here. Image, 0.1, 0.2, color, thickness. And then there are some additional options, but they're optional. So we can think up through line thickness, we kind of have to put all of them in. Okay, so I want to draw on city image. And then what I'm going to specify, it says 0.1 and 0.2. That's the upper left corner and the lower right corner of the rectangle that I want to draw. So I have that big building in the background I'm thinking of. It's pretty close to the top, but it's fairly far over. So I'm going to draw, let's say, X value of 300, and then I'm going to use 10. So it's not very far down, but it's 300 pixels over. And it goes way far down, but it's not super wide. So I'm going to do 400 by 300. Okay, so those are the 2 points that specify the location I want the rectangle to show up. Then I need to give it a color. We give it a color as a BGR tuple. So I'm going to draw what's going to show up nicely. Let's try bright green. And we'll change it if it doesn't work. And then the next one is the line thickness. If you give it a positive number, it will draw that many pixels wide. If you give it a negative number, it draws a filled in rectangle. So I don't want to fill in the rectangle because I want to be able to see the building. So I'm going to just put in 2 because I happen to like that. All right, so let's just see what happens when I run the program. All right, I'm going to pull this over toward the middle. Oh, you can see this is a narrower picture than I was thinking, so I'm way too far off to the right. And the top of this building, I want to encircle this big building complex here. The top of the building's further down, so I'm going to start changing things. I am going to subtract 100 from each of my X values, and I'm going to make this go up to 100. I'll leave that as 300. I think it can go a little farther down. Let's make it 400. All right, finish the program and rerun it. Oh, I'm closer. So I've gotten a little closer, but I still need to move the left side over a bit more. So I'm going to drop this down to 150 and maybe 275. I don't think I want it to go down quite as much. What else do I see? 100 is a little bit too far down, so we're going to try 75 there for the top. And for the bottom, I can go down further. So I'm going to go down to 500 and we'll see how far that goes. Okay. So notice I'm just kind of guessing and moving them a little bit at a time. To avoid getting confused, sometimes you only want to change one number at once and then make sure what that change is actually going to do. This is getting pretty close. I might lower that to, raise the top to 70. I want to be able to see both of these at once, and I can't seem to do that here. Let's just leave this one off to one side. The right-hand side, it could come down just a little bit. So that's the 275. So maybe I'll bring it down to 260. That might be too far. I do want to go a little bit lower on this side, so I'm going to go down to 35. And the bottom is a little too low, so we'll go to 450. Okay. And we'll try it again. All right, that may not be perfect, but that's pretty good. I've got a rectangle. All right, now suppose I want to show you drawing circles and ellipses. I'm going to do that on the blank image, and I'm not going to worry so much about specific placement. I'm just going to draw some circles. So CV2 circle is a function that draws a circle. What you give it is radius, or center point and then radius. So let's draw the first one at 50, 50, and we'll give it a radius of 30. And then we give it a color. And I'm going to make this a filled in circle. And I'll do another couple of those. So let's say 150, 250, and 350. So I want this one over and down. And then a radius of 100 and a color of, let's do sort of a medium dark magenta. So I'm going to do 128, 0, 128. And again, we'll make this a negative number. All right, so incremental development. I don't want to do too much before I try it and see what it looks like. So I'm going to run this again, and we'll take a look at the city. Oh, that doesn't look too bad. So I have, that's what a radius 30 circle looks like. It's filled in. And oh, I got a nice kind of dark purpley color by taking down the brightness of the magenta a bit. So that's not too hard. So circle is fairly straightforward. You give it the center point, the radius, the color, and the thickness. The one that always causes everyone grief is drawing ellipses, and they're kind of useful to draw. So I want to kind of pull up my notes on that. We'll finish this program. Oh, you can also draw lines, by the way, just straight lines. You give a starting point and an end point, very much like a rectangle. But it doesn't draw the rectangle, it draws it as a straight line in between the two. Drawing an ellipse has a lot of inputs. You input the image, you input a center point, you input a tuple that gives it the horizontal and the vertical radius. So it's not the total width, but like from the center point to one side. So it's basically two different radiuses. And then you give it an angle, which is an angle of rotation around the middle. And you have to specify start angle and end angle and color and thickness. There's just a lot going on here. So we're going to draw the most basic one that we can. CV2.ellipse. I'm also going to do this on the blank image. I want this away from the circles, so I'm going to try to put it over to the right, but kind of high up. So we'll make this 350. And let's say 100. That's going to be our center point. I'm going to make it wider than it is tall, so let's give it a radius of 100 there and 50 in the other dimension. And then we give the angle. And I'm going to say 45 degrees. We're going to do angles in degrees for the most part. Start angle 0, end angle 360, color. Let's try for something in the green realm. and I'll draw it filled in. All right, we'll see if I did this right. Oh yay! Well, I got I got the rotation direction wrong in my head, but it drew an ellipse, and that makes me happy. So with the ellipse, yes, it's centered right here. It has 100 pixels in this direction. It has 50 pixels in this direction. Rotating by 45, rotated it clockwise by 45 degrees. So if I want to draw something different, I can change this. I could say, let's say 66 degrees. And you can see it's rotated even a little bit further. So that's the angle of rotation of the ellipse. We also have these two other numbers, and these are the ones that are kind of weird to people. So I'm going to change them one at a time. Right now it's doing the whole ellipse. I'm going to say 180 to 360. Now notice what it did. It only drew the top half of the ellipse and not the bottom. So start angle and end angle let you draw partial ellipses, like wedges of pie with pieces missing. So in this case, I told it to start halfway around and to go all the way up to 360. So this tells you, when you think about the ellipse, to the right, that horizontal furthest point, that's where we start with 0 degrees, and then the degrees of the ellipse go around in a clockwise fashion back to 360. So I could make this smaller. I could say 270. Get that a shot. So now what it's doing is it's drawing the first part, but then it's stopping. But if I change this back to 0, it'll draw a different picture. Stop and rerun. Now it starts at 0, it goes around to 270 and stops. You probably don't need this, but it might be handy. If you want to draw Pac-Man, you can do that. And it just takes a little bit of experimentation. What I would say is when you first are drawing the ellipse, set this to 0 and 360 every time, and then start manipulating it once you know you've got the ellipse where you want it to be. All right, there's one other drawing tool that I want to spend a little time on. There's a big long section in my reading about drawing ellipses because they're so complicated. I want to take a look at the put text command, which lets us draw text on the screen. So we give it an image, we give it a string, we give it the reference point. That usually is the middle point, but you want to take a look at it. You give the font type and the font scale, color, and thickness. So it's really easy to end up drawing the text accidentally off the screen. I'm going to draw this on the city image. And the text I want is Chicago. And now I have to tell it the font. I'm going to use Font Hershey Simplex. I'm going to use a font size of 1. Always start with a font size of 1 because 1 is pretty big. This is not like 12 point or 11 point. This is not the same scale. And then color, let's do blue. And thickness will do 1. This doesn't want to show me everything because I'm off the side of the screen. There. All right, let's just see if it's not happy with it. What have I done here? Unexpected types. Oh, I forgot the point. Okay. So this is important. Don't make this up near a corner because I think this is off in the lower left corner rather than the center. But it's really easy to end up giving it a point where it draws it off the screen. So I need XY coordinates. This is about 300 wide. So we're going to do 150 across and 200 down. Okay, that makes it a little happier, I think. And so we'll try running it. There you can see, yep, it drew the Chicago. If I set the thickness to 2, that's kind of like bold facing it. It basically just makes everything 2 pixels wide. So you can see the word Chicago. I actually would like that further over to the right, so I'm going to change its center point to be, try 350, and we'll just see if that's too far. Oh, it is. 300. Okay. I'm being fussy for no good reason. There. That looks nice. All right, so this is the fonts. They're fairly simple. You can try some of these more complicated fonts and see which ones you like. There is, in fact, a way to import other fonts, but for the most part, we're not going to worry about it too much. These are the ones that are built in and come with OpenCV. All right, so this has just been a really quick overview of a few drawing commands. You are going to play with us a lot more, and as we'll see going forward, these are really useful both for computer vision, but also just as basic drawing tools that we can use to make interesting pictures with the computer. I will see you very soon.